It's as beautiful as it is treacherous, where jagged cliffs meet the loud violence of crashing waves. The southeast tip of St. John, known as Ram's Head, offers both a picturesque sight and tranquil escape from the hustle and bustle of the modern world. But even more captivating is the history of the area. How centuries ago this location was a passageway to freedom for those who refused to live as slaves. Hi everyone, I'm Janeisha John, and on today's show we'll continue to explore the island of St. John. More specifically, we'll hike to an area known as Ram's Head, revered as one of the more sacred places on the island, where slaves escaped to centuries ago in search of freedom. And of course, helping us with this adventure is none other than our good friend Olasee Davis. The journey to Ram's Head begins here, on this simple dirt path. It seems like most of our adventures begin this way. The path leads us to this area that you see here, Salt Pond Bay. As is the case with almost every beach on St. John, this area is visited by thousands of people each year. It's located about 4 miles south of Coral Bay, one of the 2 major towns on the island. The bay's crystal clear, calm water and white sandy shore provides a tranquil and serene area for beachgoers. But the area is also known for its trail that leads to Ram's Head. However, before we join that trail, we'll take a quick detour to the salt pond. This 2-acre pond is the only salt pond in the Virgin Islands that still produces salt.
This salt pond, this is in St. John. This is the pond that makes salt. It starts all in the year between April, May, June, near the dry period. We have 2 wet seasons in Ireland. May, starting from August, mid-August to November, another wet season. In order for the salt to be made, it must be dry.
Now, salt ponds like this one are usually shallow bodies of water that are cut off from the sea. They get their name due to the fact that they produce salt when water in the pond evaporates, leaving behind the salt mineral.
In salt pond, the salt pond that enclosed, and the salt pond that during storms or hurricane, it open. And what happened, it flushed the pond out. So they open and water come into the pond. And then over a period of time, it build back up and close the pond. So there's a possibility that this pond probably open down in this particular area here. Especially during when we have storms, and then it closes right back up. Some folks think salt pond, it just it's open, but it's enclosed too as well. And this is one of the ponds that's enclosed. This particular plant makes salt. So historically, the folks in St. John come here to collect salt to cook. We call it rock salt. And this is the only pond now we have in the Virgin Islands that makes salt.
Really?
All the other salt ponds, for example, like in the Great Pond in St. Croix, over the years, salt disappear. But here, this is protected. And so you're here all year, in a year, you're going to get rock salt.
This is not the typical season when salt is produced. Nonetheless, as you get close to the water's edge, you see that the pond has already begun to form a sud-like substance on the surface.
All of this here be solid. You can almost walk out on it and exactly pick up the crystal, the salt crystal from the pond itself. You can see how clear the water is. I know this is the first time you ever see a pond look so clear.
That's so true.
As compared to what is in Christ.
Here's an interesting fact. Salt ponds can range in colors from pale green to bright red. This color variation depends on the salinity of the pond. Algae in the water change colors depending on how much salt mineral is in the pond. The higher the salinity, the brighter red the pond becomes. And as mentioned earlier, this pond was the main source of salt for people living on the island decades ago to season and preserve foods.
This is some of the salt you see right here. See, as the salt began to make from the pond, this covered the entire pond area. And over the period of time, the water crystallized and it creates salt, basically. And they come here and begin to, some folks even get picking pick it, and they put it in the buckets or horse and carriage and take it back and they grind the salt. So that's how your great-grandparents and my great-grandparents collect salt. Many years ago, there was no refrigerator, so this was the area that they used the salt to can meat. So they cut off the meat and then they can the meat by using salt and they preserve the meat for many, many, many years.
Wow. It's interesting to see how, our ancestors use a lot of our our environment to do a lot of the things that they do.
Well, the folks who live in St. John, they live very close to nature. They understand nature because nature provides for them and they take care of nature. Today, we're going the opposite. We take away from nature a lot. And so the people who live here, they realize if they destroy it or what they have nothing.
That is so true.
And so this pond supply St. John with a lot of salt.
Now, with salt ponds, you're very likely to find mangroves.
As you notice with this particular salt pond, the water have a kind of brownish reddish color. That's the algae in the water.
Okay.
And you're not smelling.
Yeah, most ponds usually smell. So.
Well, the reason for that, there's no mangrove close to the water. The mangrove, for example, they drop the leaf in the water. It decomposes. It's like an organic soup. And microorganisms, they break it down and the fish eat that. And then you eat the fish.
So that's why the fish tastes so good.
That's right. That's why the fish tastes so good. So in this salt pond, you see mostly shrub plants, or what we call salt-tolerant plant that can tolerate salt.
This pond in particular is surrounded by white and black mangroves. There is also an abundance of what's referred to as sea parsley.
This sea parsley, very good for callaloo. You can put it inside the rice. You can wash this off.
It has
And-
the same salty taste.
Yes, it high in calcium. You can put it in the rice and you can stir fry it. So when you cook the rice, before the rice finished, it wash off the leaf, cut them up, put it on top of the rice, and it just simmer down. And what a thing you have.
A lot of people don't really use it.
The
though.
older folks, that would say, our young generation, yeah, McDonald, Kentucky. But this, that's how people survive.
Okay.
That's when in those days, the folks is very strong and healthy as compared to us today and hardly get sick. So they can walk around here and find plant they can put in a pot and eat. We today don't have that knowledge. And then this particular plant, this is the buttonwood. So if you got fish poison, you get a knife, you go down here, for example, you cut the bark, take the bark off, and you boil it. First you drink sugar and water when you get fish poison. And you drink that, and what it does, it over the period of time, it eliminates the poison within your system.
Okay.
This is one of the plant that they use a lot for fish poison locally.
Do they use it for any other medicinal purposes?
The leaf of the plant can use for making a tea.
Okay.
And of course, it bears some nice pretty seeds, and they use the ornaments, yeah.
Okay.
From this functional salt pond, we head south on the Ram's Head Trail. About a mile in length, the trail is narrow with many turns and many interesting plant species.
So, Mr. Davis, what's the name of this plant right here?
You call it fish poison. This particular plant go way back from the Native American here in the Caribbean. Here in St. John and throughout the Virgin Islands, this plant was used by the Taínos, so-called Carib or Calinos, and enslaved African up to the early 1960s. They would take the plant, the bark of it, they peel it off, they put it in a sack. And like, for example, the pond right over there, or along the coast, or in stream, they shake it in the stream, and what it does, it cut off the oxygen in the water, and the fish come and tap the water, and they pick up the fish.
Wow.
So that's one way folks here use to catch fish. So that's why they call it fish poison. Exactly, it won't kill the fish, but it just cut off the oxygen.
Paralyze
And
them
it
a little
paralyzes,
bit.
it more like
Okay.
stun them. And then the fish come and float on top of the water, and they collect it. And that's one way they catch fish.
So is it poisonous to say humans would
No,
have
it's
an effect on
it's
it?
not poisonous to humans.
Now we just saw a plant that was once used to tranquilize fish. Here is one that was used to treat people who fell ill to fish poison.
So this plant now.
This plant is another native plant at the island of St. John. They call it water manipu, which is the Indian name. It's used a lot for fish poison. They use the bark of the plant.
Okay.
They cut the bark, they peel the bark off.
Okay.
And then they boil the bark in water and you drink a cup. A cup, cup maybe 2-3 times a day, you drink the cup and that flush it right out. And again, a native plant, you go along the coast and you can find it inland too as well. Adapt pretty well to our condition. The Indian use these for a particular purpose on this tree. And you can go to our store today and you'll find them. They're like this. Let me see. And you can lay down in it.
A hammock?
Yep, from this tree right here. Hammock is an Indian name. So the Indian will take these and they will plait them. And because the tree go right out, and it tie down to the one tree, the one end, to the other end. And this tree will use as a hammock. So they use those twine you see right there.
Sounds like a good idea right about now, but there's still more to see on this trail. Once again, the Ram's Head Trail runs for about a mile. Not that long when you think about it, but add some sharp turns, loose dirt and rocks, and an incline, and you have yourself a challenging trail. But for those who hike the trail, coming up on scenic sights like these make it all worthwhile. And out in the distance, our final destination.
If we don't want to go out to the cliff, we can stay in the background here and you can talk about it from here.
With about half a mile left, I think we'll push forward. The trail gets interrupted by this cobble beach.
See, this is a shorter cut. See, we're down by Ram's Head Beach, or Ram's Head Bay, we say in the olden days. You can see all the coral along the shore. Look how pretty the water is.
Sure it is.
What a sight. It's a loop.
Mr. Davis is right. It's a beautiful sight, but I wouldn't recommend anyone to swim in this bay. These stones can leave you with some painful memories. Once we've crossed the bay, we begin our upward climb to the top of Ram's Head. Immediately, one notices the change in vegetation. The thick brush and shrubs are replaced by cacti and grass.
Okay, Mr. Davis, this is finally it.
Yep, this is Ram's Head. Very historical site on St. John. This is one of the areas back in 1733 where we had the slave revolt over here at St. John that they controlled the island for 6 to 8 months. In fact, St. John make history in the Western Hemisphere. It first happened in the Western Hemisphere and St. John where enslaved Africans hold the island for a long period of time than any other in the Caribbean. This area here, after the French was the one that the Danish government asked to come to capture the enslaved Africans. And when they got here, the enslaved Africans jumped over these cliffs for the freedom instead of being captured,
Much like Mary's Point.
like Mary Point.
Okay.
So this is a very sacred area. You notice on this side they have the land from this part of the Caribbean, and this side over there is the Atlantic Ocean. You can see Tortola from that side over there. So this side of the island is the Atlantic Ocean, and this side is the Caribbean Sea. So this is a very sacred, and you go further right down along the cliff. So you could just imagine a person leaping from here along this cliff and leaping on this rock to the death.
Wow.
All along this cliff, the enslaved African just jump over. Now, when they did that, we today would consider being they commit suicide. But back then, to them, when they jump over, they got back to Africa. So they prefer to be free by jumping over than to be captured and to be tormented or to be killed. For example, the neck could be cut off, they could stab them in half, they could cut off their hand, and they prefer to just jump over these cliffs.
That's gruesome, and I guess at that time, this was just their escape.
That's just the escape from being captured for those past 6 or 8 weeks.
Wow.
So the first time in the history what happened in the Western Wall was St. John. Made history where the enslaved Africans control for that period of time.
Okay. Now, why is it called Ram's Head?
Many different reasons. First of all, the head, some folks say, is shaped like a ram's head. You can see how the ram's head and this horn like that.
Okay.
And also, goats, billy goats, they like cliff. They like these kind of areas along the cliff. The possibility they get from the goat, the rams that live here throughout the island. But basically, a lot of folks believe it's shaped like a ram's head, and it just got a name. Only I mentioned that estates got named from the topography, from the geography, from those who own the plantation, and give the name by either the daughter or the son or the person who own the plantation, or the name comes from Europe. Because many of the enslaved, or not enslaved, but many of the investors came from Europe, and they purchased land here, and they give the land the names. And over the years, the name have changed, and the name have different meaning. Like for example, before the week is out, we hiked at Reef Bay. Reef get a name from the valley, and that's where it came with the name, up with the names.
Okay, now it seems like we're pretty high. About how high are we?
This is more than 200 feet above sea level.
Wow.
And as you look down, you see the water look very rough. And as you fall, you impact, you hitting the rocks. You come a little further down here, you get more better view. I hope you ain't afraid of hike.
Not really, but standing on the edge of these cliffs is a bit nerve-wracking. It gives you a sense of what slaves went through to obtain their freedom. I now understand why many have great reverence for this area.
Wow, that was quite an experience. I must say, I really enjoyed learning about this area and experiencing some of the scenic sights that it has to offer. Now, we're not quite through with today's show as yet. Just 2 miles west of Ram's Head, there's another popular area within a national park known as Lambshire Bay.
The Lambshire Bay Trail is one of the many trails on the island of St. John that attract many visitors to the island. The short half-mile trail leads to what was once the Lambshire Bay Great House. There is also a research facility that dates back to 1966, but I think we'll leave that for another time.
We are heading toward Lambshire Bay. This is Lambshire Bay Road, is the old Danish road.
Okay.
In this area here, more than 200 years ago, sugarcane and St. John, they were terracing for more than 200 years. Right now what we have is what we call a secondary forest, which means they cut the virgin forest down and they cultivate for X amount of years, and after that the forest take over, and this is the dry forest area.
Is there any area in St. John that's still virgin forest?
Yeah, we still have the patches on
Here and
the
there?
on the island.
Okay.
But the majority of the island, or 90% of the island, according to history, historians would deforest.
For terracing?
For terracing.
Cattle.
And that really
grazing.
start during from the 1718 or the 1717,
Okay.
when Denmark claimed St. John as their own.
Okay. So what are we looking at over here?
This part of the plantation in Lambshire Bay area.
These ruins are what remain of the Lambshire Bay estate. Deeded to a Dane that lived on St. Thomas, the estate was established to produce cotton. It was destroyed in the 1733 slave revolt, but restored once again for cotton production. Eventually, the estate became a sugar estate. That is, it began producing sugar up until 1854.
This is the animal pen where they keep the animals at night. If you look at the area, you can see, for example, you come over here. You see corals, bricks, sedimentary rock, and all this what you see in here was molasses, lime, water, and sand that constructed this
A lot of the
structure.
same materials are found throughout all the plantations.
Throughout the plantation.
Okay.
So that was the material that they use here locally. And so they keep the animals in here at night, and then in the day they go out and they pen them in. And that tradition continued up until the early 70s. For me, for example, my parents, they raised goats.
Okay.
My grandparents used to take the animals out in the day, and at night they used to bring them in, close to the house. If you notice around here, there's other structures around here, so they keep the animal very close to the estate.
And this would be the estate that we're probably looking at behind of us?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this tradition continued from way back many years ago.
So, Mr. Davis, I see the road goes off into so many different directions. What are some of these roads lead? What do they lead to?
This particular road is Lambshire Bay Trail,
Okay.
and it heads straight to Reef Bay. For example, Reef Bay Factory is 2.8 miles.
Okay.
The petroglyph is 2.1 miles. Reef Bay itself is 1.6 miles. And so this Lambshire Bay Trail connects you to that to those other trails. On my left, this is Border Trail that takes you 1.2 miles to Border Mountain. That's the highest peak. It's 1,200 above sea level.
Wow.
The highest peak on St.
St.
John.
John.
And you can hike right up, and you got a good view of Coral Bay as well as Tortola.
Okay, so going back into, our ancestors and the time before, like during, I guess, slavery and what's not, the roads and the different locations, how significant were they? And
This road was built by the enslaved African that lived on the road,
okay.
and it was built for the donkey. And you notice along the way we saw some donkeys.
Yes.
And so this road was go back and forth where they carry the sugarcane to the major factories.
Okay.
One of the major factory in this particular area was in Reef Bay area. So it's an old road, so now the road is historical. So today we don't have donkeys and carriage.
No.
We hike to these sites.
Okay. Interesting. A lot of history in this area.
Tremendous history. This is one of the my favorite part of St. John. It is the southern part of the island because of the petroglyph and a very good preserved sugar factory.
Which we're going to get to see.
We didn't get to see.
Okay.
Up to the early 1900s, it was still in operation. If you go there today, you just oil it up and it starts right up.
Really?
Really, that's how good it is.
Okay, I'm looking forward to seeing that.
From a functioning salt pond to a historic site that represented freedom, our tour of the southeast section of St. John proved to be quite a special experience. I hope you enjoyed yourself as much as I did. And until next time, remember to cherish your home, this beautiful island, but most of all, cherish each other.
Rediscover St. John is underwritten in part by Keneal Bay, a Rosewood resort.